This is Talk Over Tea,
a place for a casual conversation about life and local government.
With Kassandra
and Claudel Frederic,
elected officials from the city of Amesbury, Massachusetts.
Relax with us for a moment. The tea is hot.
Hey, Claudel.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Very well.
Good. Welcome back to another episode of Talk Over Tea.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I am excited about this episode. I have no expertise in this area, and we're going to rely on Claudel and his research. So while I have you, just a reminder to share this podcast with your friends and followers. We've been at this for a while now, and it's always fun for people to actually stop us on the street and say they listen. And we hope that you find this valuable. So spread the love.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely spread the love. And thank you for your disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
She said all the research went to Claudel here, just in case. All right.
This one's on you. No, I thought this would be, this is an important topic, but I wanted Claudel to tell us, it really kind of started with something that he did this week.
Yeah.
And so I wanted him to tell us about what he did during a school budget hearing that was just really important for our community. So why don't you tell us what you did?
So during the school budget hearing, it was a very hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
Leading up to it, super, super hot topic.
Yeah.
And basically what I did was joined Amanda Hagstrom. She had organized something amazing with Dr. Ritchie, where basically we had a couple rooms in the high school opened, so there was free care, childcare.
Mm-hmm.
So Amanda and I were there with our kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had my son, she had her daughter. We were there, and there was a couple high school volunteers.
Yeah.
And parents were able to bring their kids in and drop them off, let them do some arts and craft with us, or just chat with us, play games, like right on the boards. But the parents were able to be part of the meeting instead of being at home, not being able to attend, and missing out on such vital information. So that was such a big deal. Like that was a genius play by Amanda. Thank you for that. But that's what we did. And it felt absolutely great, like to just be part of that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's different ways to be involved. And even as a city councilor, it's not always being in City Hall or just, or legislation. It's kind of just providing opportunities for constituents like that. So that was awesome.
I think it's great. There's other communities who do this on a pretty regular basis. It's not something we've seen in our community. And even if it helps one family for the night to be able to come and participate, even to just listen if they've got a young child who's new to the district and learning, just to be there to listen and have that time and to give their child even a chance to socialize and to meet other people. I mean, they were nearby. They were right outside the auditorium.
That's it.
And to, sort of build community in that way. Like you said, school budget was a hot topic.
Yeah.
We were expecting a big turnout. But to provide the chance to be part of of the public process is just really important, and is one more way to make our community accessible and equitable, and really build people up. And I just really appreciate that it was city councilors who you've got a lot on your plate to begin with. You both have full-time jobs and families, and saw the need and really stepped up. So it takes a village, and I think that was awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely an example of that for sure. And childcare is not cheap.
Yeah, so it led us to that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, well, what if they had to pay a babysitter?
They wouldn't show up.
They wouldn't even show up.
That's the harsh reality of it, though. I feel like people wouldn't. Like, you're going to have to pay for a babysitter. You know what I mean?
To go to a public meeting. Not to go to dinner or, like enjoy a massage or something, but to go to a public meeting.
Yeah, to be
and
there.
the public meeting was 4 hours long, so it wasn't fast.
So you're talking about
It wasn't like
Yeah.
an hour,
No.
even that's kind of long. So,
that's pretty expensive. You know what I mean? For one night, call a sitter. Hey, can you watch my kid for 3 to 4 hours? That's like $100.
yeah. So tell me from your experience and your research here, what are people paying for a babysitter for like a night like that for a couple hours out of the house?
Well, if somebody's coming to their home, like
Yeah.
I said, it's roughly about $25 like an hour, right? If somebody's coming over and like watching your child.
That's
So it's
crazy.
like if you have to do that a few times a week, that's money. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And then childcare, like on a regular basis, like say if you need to drop your kid off at daycare.
Yeah, what's that
I'm
like?
talking to friends and they're telling me like they're paying like $325 a week for 3 days.
Okay. So it's
Like-
more than $100 a day.
Yeah, so that's more than $100.
So could be
Yeah.
could be more than $500 a week,
Yeah, you're talking about almost $2,000 like a month. Like,
and that's
yeah,
that's a lot of money.
yeah, that's a lot of money. And I think to your point, just having a community where we could be a resource or figure something out where we're able to help out with some childcare during some of our meetings would be a big deal because we're losing out on civic engagement due to affordability for
Yeah.
childcare.
Yeah, well, think about it. If a family is paying for childcare during the day like that,
Yeah.
and it's taking up, I'm going to imagine, a significant part of their income, then they don't have the money to pay the babysitter, or the,
Yeah.
and even that experience for the babysitter, for the kid down the street,
Right.
that high schooler, to have a night of, a little bit of earning, the experience, the
Right.
responsibility. It changes our society. And like, I think of how much I babysat, when I was young, and I still think about some of those times and those kids, and and provided me with an opportunity to I babysat through college, and they're less likely to spend that money on an evening babysitter, which then also
Right.
weighs on them and their the ability to get out of the house and spend time with your spouse and relax and socialize, and it's when you sort of start thinking about it, like it's really changed the way we all live. The cost of childcare.
Yeah, it affects us on a regular basis. Like, how do we make a change to that? Like, how do we help with that?
Yeah.
Like, and if we could provide some help, like, would more people be involved? Like, you know what I mean?
I would love to see, and I don't know how we can make this sustainable, even the way that you did it, a partnership with our high school where maybe we just choose a certain type of meeting. And, maybe it's just budget hearings, right? They get a lot of attention. People want to go, they want to participate. It might be the only public meeting they ever go to. But maybe we just start with those and we say just consistently every year we're going to have, at budget hearings, we're going to have childcare available in the building. So your kid is nearby. You can go check on them while you're waiting for your, one shot at your 3 minutes that we give you. And we see what that does. We see how many people are taking advantage of it and participating, and maybe we get to formalize it a little bit more and get feedback, and sort of create a more formal program for the students to participate, the high schoolers.
I feel like that would build so much trust within the community too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what it does, it shows the people that we want them to be involved, we want them to be heard, and we want to create avenues for them for it to be easier for them to show up.
Yeah.
And it's not about like nobody's trying to hide anything. We don't want you to not be part of the process.
Yeah.
We want that. So I think if we were able to do something like that, like you said, during the big hearings or things like that, I think people would slowly get more involved in general. Just because they would realize, wow, this is important, and me showing up today was huge, and I want other people to be able to show up as well. And I'm going to show up more and figure out how to show up more, But I think we need to provide this.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts sort of like coming to my mind as you say that. Now might be the best time. I'm sure there's been times in our history like this too, but I feel like we have a lot of city councilors and school committee members with little kids, and I've seen them come to meetings. You know, I've seen city councilors bring their kids to meetings and have them sit off to the side, you know, usually on an iPad. We've had school committee members bring their kids, and they've actually sat at the table with us. You know, again, sometimes on an iPad. But I feel like we sort of started to create that culture of like, if you need to come to a meeting and your sort of barrier is your child, just bring your child, right? It's not like a no kid zone. And so if we had a space for their kids and for other kids, you know, again, I think it would make it feel a lot more accessible for people to get involved in the boards and on, you know, be in office. And then also there'd be that support from the board members to have that happening in the back room or, you know, in the building. I feel like I've seen a lot of that, a lot of people bringing their kids, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And they're always so good. They're sitting through the most boring.
I can't guarantee my son would be sitting through.
He's still a little young for that.
But yes. But yeah, no, definitely. I feel a combination of that, and I don't want to kind of pedal backwards, but hybrid meetings would be amazing.
We do still offer hybrid meetings, and you know, it's a COVID era sort of holdover. We're hoping we can continue to do that for as long as possible, and we're looking for a permanent act by the legislature. But that definitely helps to break down some barriers for folks too. So yeah, that would be great. The other thing I was thinking is we have more and more childcare centers in our community. I go to a ribbon cutting for a childcare center like once a year, if not more. And so I wonder if we'd even find any of them who might want to partner with us on this effort. If you're out there,
that is a good idea.
If you're out there listening, this is your shot, right? But that's maybe an untapped resource for us if they wanted to have someone on site. Obviously, they carry licensure that, you know, right now we're all, you know, you guys are just volunteering, but that might be more desirable for some people to know that they have someone in the room who runs a, you know, licensed childcare center. But there's a lot of them in town.
That is a really good idea. A potential partnership
you know,
like
this
that.
Is why.
This really.
This is why they call me mayor. No.
Wow. This is why, huh? I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
But no, that is really a good idea.
So, maybe we can work on something that's a little more. Yeah. You know, we volunteer again. I had nothing to do with this, but you know, maybe that's how it runs for a little while, and then we get some partners. Yeah. But it's just could really change the way people engage in our community. I think, you know, again, even if it's one family or, you know, 2 or 3, it doesn't. You know, I don't expect a full room of, you know, 20 families worth of kids, but
you know what
getting a handful of people there is
makes
good.
Me think of too is. It shows how important it is to have a diverse council, right? So imagine if this was a council just not as diverse as it is now. Like we have women on our council, men on our council, single parents on our council. Like it's a nice diverse council, right? So imagine if none of us were in that position. Amanda came through and she thought about this. Yeah. She was like, damn,
it affects
like
her life.
If this was me, you know what I mean? I would want to be there, and I know what my burden is. So she was like, you know what? Like, here's what we could do. Like, and that's the power of having a diverse council. Yes. It's like, yes, I'm a single parent or whatever it is, but I'm out here. I'm doing this too. Yeah. So I'm going to create situations for you to come through to. Yeah. And that's what she did. Like, awesome. So to me, that is a huge situation. Like everybody on council cannot be thinking the same. Right. We cannot have the same backgrounds. We cannot have this. No. Like everybody has to approach things differently. And that is proof of it right there. So that was awesome. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah. I love that. And we have done an entire episode on why it's important to, you know, get involved and maybe even run for office. And it takes many nudges to get someone to run for office. So here's one more for you. Right, if you are someone who had an experience that you don't think is represented, run for office. Yep. We do need you. And it just adds to that
diversity.
Yeah, and that range of thought that we're able to provide in the way we serve our community.
That's it.
And it's so special to have and to see in action. And I'm so grateful that that Amanda stepped up and had the idea.
Yeah.
You were happy to join her. And,
Yeah.
and, like you said, there's other members on council who, that doesn't affect them that way. They were not there, right? Like we don't all have to be there. We don't have to come up with the idea there. That's why we're all different. And, it was I think it was just a really cool thing to see.
It was.
On Monday. And it came together quick and, sort of met the moment. It was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure we'll probably end up doing it again at some point.
Yeah.
But this was great, though, for sure.
Yeah. Just a note about running for office and childcare is sort of connect the dots there for you. In Massachusetts, in November of 2024, the state did pass an update to the law for campaign finance. You can actually use campaign finance or campaign funds. If you've raised money and you're running for office, you can actually use those on childcare expenses as long as they're related to campaign activities.
Yeah,
so if
that is
you
awesome.
needed childcare to go to a networking event, to hold a fundraiser, to spend a day door knocking, because you are a single parent and we want you, but that's going to be hard for you to do is run a campaign. You can actually take the money that you raise and you can spend part of it, not just on signs and door hangers and, other, some mailers and things like that, but you can actually use it to pay for your childcare, which is amazing.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That is definitely huge. Hopefully that helps sparks somebody up, you know what I mean? And be like, all right, let's do this, get some funds and then let's make it work. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a real, you at one point said like, what do we do? And I don't have the answer to how we fix this. It's obviously so expensive for childcare. And we were, when we were chatting about this, like in some instances, it's just easier for some people, or financially, not easier, financially makes more sense for people to not even, to not work, but to stay home. It doesn't make sense to pay for childcare.
Right.
And as employers and, even as employees, like that's such a hard pill to swallow. Even, in my experience, again, without kids, I have very different sort of experience with this, but as an employer, I've had that come up in my office that, so-and-so wants to start a family. And when they get pregnant, they'll leave. And it's so hard to hear. I heard that and thought, what?
Yeah.
Like they're a good employee. I don't want them to leave.
Right.
But they're in an entry-level job. I can't imagine that pay is going to cover the cost of childcare. So not only does it affect our volunteers and people engaging in the process, but our employees. At a city where we have, limitations, sometimes significant limitations on benefits and what we use to attract and retain good talent. I don't know what we do about that. I've been sort of asking around, what do you do? What does your employer do? I've heard about childcare, sort of incentives, like a payment to help sort of pay for childcare. And, there's certainly, people are talking about more leave and, things like that. But, I don't know how we reconcile those things.
But I don't know if that's so even a long-term.
Is it sustainable?
Yeah, if it's sustainable.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we're talking about, we're relocating City Hall, and I don't know if we've talked about that before, but we're talking about making sure that there's a space for nursing moms. And if once they have a child, they can't work anymore because they can't afford the childcare, I probably don't need a space for them to nurse. It's like so contradictory that I don't.
Yeah, that's
I don't
tough.
understand
it's expensive. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to wrap your mind around. But
It
it's
really
like,
is.
you're better off staying home and I'll go to work because it's going to cost us more to get.
Yeah, no matter the parent, like somebody.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have to take care of.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to take care of the baby. Yeah.
And again, we have so many childcare centers in town. There's certainly no, there's certainly enough little ones to fill those seats. There's certainly a demand. I don't know how people are paying for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no.
So we are, we're trying to think outside the box. Claudel and Amanda are really showing up and coming up with ideas, and
I was just lucky to be part of it. All right. All the idea goes to Amanda.
Yeah, Counselor Hagstrom really showing
definitely.
up. So if you're listening, you have ideas, or your employer has something really unique on the books. I mean, I know I'm all ears. I'm certainly thinking about it. Recruitment and retention of staff at the city level is such a priority for me because turnover is, the opposite of efficient for us. We only have one of one for everything. And so when someone leaves and we have a gap and we hire someone new, they're already starting from behind and, have to learn the ropes, and there's a backlog of work, and, we have good employees. We really want to keep them. And
good employees get pregnant.
Yeah.
And sometimes good employees have babies,
Yes. People's lives change. We want them to grow with us.
Change, yeah.
Wait, think about that though. So think about people who sort of like, generation prior to us, they got jobs at cities and towns. It was like much more, I don't say like mainstream. It was much, you saw a lot more people sort of going to work for the town. Mm-hmm. And they've worked there their entire career. I still have employees who have worked for our city for 30 and 40 years. They worked through growing their family.
Right. At a different time, though.
Right. So how do we, but we want to, I know people don't stay in their jobs for 10 years anymore, but what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? So anyway, yeah.
If you could control inflation, then we'll solve the problem.
Okay, well, I don't have that. I can't control that. So I don't have a magic wand.
You don't have that? Then I don't know.
I don't. So maybe this was like a big downer. But like it's all expensive and you can't afford to have kids. No. This was actually great. Yeah. That there are ways for cities and towns to really step up and help families engage in their community, be part of what is happening. Absolutely. For us to find community together, which is more important than ever right now. And if you're looking for a way to feel like you're making a difference, it could be anything that you could step up and do.
Like and you said, it takes a village.
Participate.
So that's it. I agree.
So this was a great example. And I learned a little bit more about childcare and how it's affecting our community. I'm very excited to see how we might make this a more more regular practice. I've like totally lost the word. Like
not permanent.
No, not. But something more consistent for our community. Exactly. There you go.
I look forward to helping out with that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Of course.
Thanks for what you do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, if you've got ideas and you're listening, please reach out to us, whether that is about what we talked about today or anything else that we have shared. If you have topics that you'd like us to cover, we are all ears. We have tried to keep a balance of life and local politics. I get a lot of feedback when we talk about life, but I think we are both relatively private people. So this is an experience for us. So let us know. And with that, I would say enjoy the rest of your afternoon, Claudel.
Thank you. And you as well.
Thank you.
And you listeners as well. And watchers.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.